Executive Director of SNEF, S-N-E-F. He'll be presenting today, leveraging data and analytical tools for customer experience. Stephen Yee is an experienced Deputy Executive Director with demonstrated history of working in the nonprofit organization management industry. He's skilled in strategic planning, go-to-market strategy, organizational development, sales management, digital literacy, and business strategy. He has a master's degree focused on MSc, project management from University of Adelaide, and in the world down under, I think. And he will be sharing on leveraging data and analytics to address the customer experience in a challenging pandemic world. Wow, it's taking on a lot, Stephen. Well, it's off to Stephen. It's all yours, buddy.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks a lot, and welcome everyone here. It's really midnight in Singapore now. I will just keep myself awake. Okay, let me just turn on my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yeah, we're all set.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Now, the topic today is leveraging data and analytical tools to identify valuable business opportunities, drive decisions, and even to the extent of innovate products. Okay, let me just start to look at the definition of data and analytics. I think it's a very important thing. Often than not, we tend to basically get ourselves entangled, okay? And a lot of companies have been talking about they use to analyze data, get into actionable insights, use data to make better decisions, and even collect relevant data to generate value. Again, we have heard about all this, but at the end of the day, how useful your data going to be, and what are you going to use it for, and basically to look at what has happening, and even for that matter, likely going to happen. So the only thing that I would like to basically focus on here is, let me see, I got my slides out, sorry. Now, is that you need to somehow organize your data, clean it, and put it in a very coherent manner that at the end of the day, it can be presented to decision makers. I think all of us are struggling with that if we are doing it for the first time. Okay, but don't worry about that. The tools out there is getting better and better, more user friendly, and again, never be disheartened about how you get started. Working with the right partner, technology partner is important, and getting yourself trained in the area of data literacy. I'm going to introduce to you a new term called data literacy. Just take that term for the time being, and I'll just define that as we go along. Now, let me just move on. Now, we can't possibly be solving 21st century challenges using our own method of thinking and frameworks. If you look at this comic strip here, you will probably understand. And we seriously need to look at very data-driven decisions and how it really works and impact our decisions with supported data. I think that is highly, highly important. Now, let me just move on to the next area, digital transformation. I think this is not a new term to all of you here. Okay, now the pandemic has definitely accelerated digital transformation, and it has actually scaled up in an unprecedented manner, whereby the report shows US $1 trillion uplift in GDP by year 2025 in ASEAN. Now, situation in Singapore is not that good in the year of 2020, which is last year. We practically have a lockdown in April all the way to June. It's almost 2 months, okay? but we choose to use a term called circuit breaker. If I get to mention about circuit breaker, it's basically a lockdown. Only essential services can be run during that period. Now, yes, the World Bank report also reported that the ASEAN digital economy is not fully utilizing or have not fully realized yet. Obviously, coupled with the fact of the COVID-19, it has also, in fact, it has stopped certain things, but accidentally, it has also speed up a lot of digital transformation and implementation in certain companies, be it whatever sectors you're talking about, small, large, you name it. In fact, the small and the mid-size are the one that are doing very well in Singapore, okay? Especially they happen to have really crossed over some form of phases of digital transformation. Now, the lack of talent skill in IT continues with the problem. It will flow into the post-COVID-19. And again, reason is very simple. If you look at the future of work, the future skills, we are all talking about digital skills, we are all talking about new sets of skills. In fact, the future of work report says that every 18 months, somehow we'll lose 30 to 40% of our skills, and we need to pick up the new ones. If not, we can get ourselves obsoleted. Reason being is that more and more job tasks will be automated, okay, regardless of what profession you're in. In fact, when we get into access the data, the accountant was so worried, even the doctors were worried about the use of telemedicine and so on. So everybody get panicked. And what really creeps into organization is this term called data-driven, whereby data becomes almost like your currency. And again, the big question about using big data to analyze things, and everybody is looking at each other. Have I fully digitized my stuff? A lot of my data is still in the printed format. So how do I get it into the system? And if not, you will not be able to get a full picture of what is happening. And not to fall short of to mention that there are even more data that are not clean, not cleansed, whereby it gives you this garbage in, garbage out. So those are the things that the data scientists will tell you that half the time they have to look at cleansing the data and so on. Now, what is data driven? It's all talking about making data and analytics part of the whole business strategy, your system, processes, and to the extent of the culture, developing a data driven culture within an organization. Now, that is important, and it is creeping into many organizations, and also the data-driven organizations do not depend on just IT. In fact, it is being decentralized, but the data, it is owned by the user department. The IT guy is the one that provides the infrastructure, the storage, and so on. So data becomes a very important thing that is with the users, and how do we really make use of it. The capturing of the data is important as well. Okay, now let me just move on to the next area. I think this is a typical thing that you see that talks about why 60 to 85% of a digital transformation fail. Is it has to do with the technology or due to the talents which is lacking in data literacy skills? I truly agree it is often with the people. In fact, a lot of times when organizations start to implement technology, they often are not forget about the people skills. Is it? That is important. You need to make sure that at the end of the day, that your people are adequately trained, data literacy skills, the features of the technology, and the purpose behind it. I think the earlier few speakers, when it talks about technology and analytic styles and so on, the use of technology, never without fail the mention of people. I think people forms the cornerstone of what we are trying to do here. It is a big change management here. We need to manage and ensure that the people comes along with it. I'm one person that do not fully agree that technology will take over the human beings, but rather the human beings decide what technology to be used as an enabler and to what extent the technology we're going to embrace on, be it whether it's the robotics or the robotics process automation. We decide what we want to basically automate, especially the very routine work, which I think most people do not really like it, and that's where a great large automation can really happen. Look at it. If today your job involves a lot of routine tasks, my only suggestion is that please upskill yourself, reskill yourself to do the other type, which is the unstructured kind of work. Example, sales, customer facing, where you need to also embrace a lot of empathy skills, which I think Jason has mentioned earlier on in his presentation. These are things that are always evergreen and is very personalized. Okay, so we have to really think of how to give up our routine job tasks, okay, to automation, and again, we use that as a tool for ourselves. Okay, now again, data literacy comes into the picture as well. Okay, now I'll answer that in the Q&A later on. Now, let us look at a few case studies. I do not want to bore you with all the technical terms and so on, but I just want to get my message across that at the end of the day, how important it is to use data and tools. How do you embrace that in your business? At the end of the day, is to basically wow your customer with good customer experience, get into pivot your business into the new areas so that you can continue to serve your customers and get into a bigger spectrum of market of your choice. Now, I'm going to cover 3 case studies. One which is a global company, one a Singapore company, and the other one is Singapore National Employees Federation. How we do it as well. We are not spared, though we are a non-profit organization. Somehow that the pandemic has actually transformed us, or rather for that matter, we are being forced to transform to basically serve our members and customers at large. Now, you take a look at Delivery. I think this is an online food delivery company founded by a Singaporean and bred in London itself. Okay, I don't think I need to mention much about them, but again, if you look at it, it operates in 200 locations across many continents. It's all stated there in those countries. Now, it started first launch is subscription service plus, and then into 2019. What happened during the circuit breaker? The circuit breaker here, I'm talking about a lockdown in Singapore last year. It basically saw an average 20% increase in order every month between February into April. That's where we start to get into very serious infections, and more of this order delivery happens, and they basically have 700 new restaurants sign up with them from onto the platform in late January. Okay, everybody gets into a panic state. They try to limit themselves from visiting restaurants and eateries. They basically make use of a delivery service. Okay, now how do they cope with it? With the increase in orders and merchants coming on board their system. Now, basically, they even have riders. Okay, they need to basically train up the riders how to use the applications, and to cope with the demand. They basically look at how to capitalize the data that they have, and how to basically set the algorithm in the system to basically work more effectively, to know where the location of the rider, and try to pack orders that are more meaningful by certain routes and routes, so that there isn't an unnecessary too far travel, and the rider can basically deliver the food to the customers on time and within schedule, so they can move on to the next order. So they basically make use of a lot of the data. They analyze it and they rework on their algorithm, and basically that's how they do it. Obviously, there's a part that involves the rider on the data literacy in terms of training and so on. So these are things that basically they look at it using data analytics, not only to basically ensure that the customers receive the goods on time in an orderly manner, and also later on they basically develop the platform so that it is even more customer centric. Okay, this is important. Now, another company, Sense by Six, founded in 2016 by Jason, also a Singapore brand, well-known perfumers. The interesting part of it is that this company has never occurred in their life all the while from 2014 until 2020. And it's during the circuit breaker, the lockdown period, that Mr. Lee, the founder himself, has realized that the only way to reach his customer is to go onto a digital solutions. And what have they done? They basically look at how to put in all that data into an inventory management system, make use of the e-commerce web development software, and start to drill down into the details, looking at search engine optimization in order to put the company at the highest search order whenever wants to do a search on the search engine. Now, what happened is, the problem is that initially he has no order, he cannot reach the customer. So with the digital transformation, he sees a 25% jump in the annual sales, even better than it used to be. Now, the company actually embarked on the customer journey by providing very personalized service, and again, looking at the experience on the store using AI as well. So what happened here is that it is collecting data by the day from the outlets and so on, but using the e-commerce fronts to reach out to the customers. And what happened is that when they pick up from the stores, it is basically a pickup store. Okay, so they no longer rely on walk-in customers anymore, but basically serving loyal customer, repeat customers order. And again, I think the customers are able to go onto the website and talk to bots, okay, which are robots in nature, and basically they show videos of the scents and do all kinds of things, and basically that's how they emit and sells their fragrant product. So it's quite an innovative way of doing things. I personally have not tried that, but what happened is that one of the consultants that actually deliver the solutions actually told me it is a fantastic thing that they have never seen before. And just imagine, this company have never even get onto the digital bandwagon before, and during that period they have decided to move in, and together with the staff and the technology partner, and within that short period of about, I think, 6 months, they basically get themselves in the right shape and order, not only fulfilling their orders, but to also give the customer an experience that they have never seen before. Just imagine, all these customers used to go to a store and buy fragrance, they smell there and they buy things. And now he's able to even offer it on the web with a different experience, and obviously with delivery order as well. So you no longer need to basically do your repeat orders by going to the store anymore. And again, that business has also extended it into the region as well. So if you ask me, COVID-19 has basically spurred a lot of things for this gentleman who never in their life actually embarked on the digital transformation. Somehow It's forced by circumstances that he needs to do that, and I think he has made the right choice. If you ask me, yes, it's a successful model, but behind it is all the style, and again looking at data analytics to basically look at the customers' needs and start to segregate the segments and the different markets as well. Now, let me just share a little bit about the company, the organization that I work with, basically the Singapore National Employees Federation. We started it, our history is about 40 over years, okay, where it merges two association or trade unions into the Singapore National Employer Federation. And we are a non-profit organization. We represent the interests of employers. Our income stream basically comes from membership. Today, the major revenue actually comes from training. So it's almost like 3 in the ratio of 1. Okay, and we also offer consultancy service. And we basically look at serving the employees in the HR and the industrial relations in those areas. Now, you may ask me what happened to my members, and even for that matter, my employers at large, my customers, because today training serve more than just members. We also serve non-members as well who comes to us for training. So we started off looking at a little bit of what we call digital transformation. In 2019, we put an endorsement on SNAP Digital, SNAP Workplaces, where we believe flexible work arrangement can happen, and also a little bit of what we call e-learning. Okay, not virtual learning. It didn't occur to us what is that during that time. So we work on 3 initiatives. SNAP Digital is to make sure that we go digital, automate whatever we can. At the same time, we encourage customers to embark on digital transformation. We started off in the year 2016, but 2019, we basically get it up in terms of SNAP Digital. Workplaces, we are talking about the strong advocacy of 5 years on flexible work arrangement, and also the learning. We started to do a little bit e-learning. It didn't really pick up. Traditionally, a lot of people still wants to come to face in-person training, or we call face-to-face training. Now, what happened during the pandemic, which is in 2020? Okay, obviously we have all the lockdowns that happens in many countries. In our case, 2 months of lockdown, and in between the year 2020 and into this year 2021, we have a series of tightening measures. Now and then, researchers, we have to go down on phase 2, heightened alert, and so on. And again, if you look at it, the traditional way of training will not happen. When the lockdown happens in April, basically our customers have nowhere to attend training. In fact, they call up our hotline, we channel our hotline to all our handphones, we operate from home. Every customer say they need one form of a training. So at that point in time, we just get to know about this product called Zoom. To be frank, we started using Zoom 1 year ago in 2019, but it wasn't that pervasive. We use it for overseas meetings and so on, connecting to our overseas partner, and that's it, finished, nothing else on that. So here in April 2020, we forced ourselves to pick up a skill called Zoom together with our 80 trainers who are associates. We have about 40 staff in the corporate learning center. We all learned the software called Zoom within a day, and it's still not good enough. And we went into a buddy system. We start to roll out our virtual learning training 3 weeks from the lockdown. And we basically guide everybody, we work as a team, and that's how we actually get our things moving. Then we start to analyze our data that we have, which are the popular causes. We try to pick up data and analyze, and in the end, about 1.5 months, we managed to get 100 courses online. Okay, based on the data that we collected, and we pick up small data from my members. Predominantly, our goal at that point in time is to serve our members first, and we use that to basically later expand it to non-members who are employers at large. Now, you may also wonder, we also ask ourselves, we have been working for the last 5 years advocating to employers and employees out there flexible work arrangement, and even to the extent we even want to do it for our own department, corporate learning center. My director, my staff will tell me it is quite impossible to operate, but here comes the COVID-19. It forces everybody to work from home, operate from home, do training from home, facilitate a class from home, you name it, and everything happens because of that. So that's where I think it really quite a miracle. But I would say that we basically not only change the mindset of people moving, but also looking at our data and start to analyze it. Though I think we do not really have fantastic data, but it's good enough for us to make certain decisions. And likewise, importantly, is that we are able to continue to provide that customer service that we all the while want, that we have to maintain with our employers, our members. In fact, they love it so much that today my members ask me, can we have more training online? That was in the year 2020, 21. They feel a bit fatigued, so we do what we call hybrid learning, whereby certain portions of it we do face-to-face, because in Singapore we still allow some face-to-face on a smaller scale. So we do a mixture of that, so that we can basically navigate ourselves between the heightened alert and the other phases whereby it's more liberal. Okay, now you may ask me also that we basically looks at our data, we look at our feedback from our customers. Everybody rush into there's a big migration of staff all working from home, and every company gets into a panic state. They do not know how to basically advise the staff and operate, and basically we formulate those into advisories and guidelines to help companies to basically manage the staff working from home. So we do all this through webinar, Zoom webinar, and engage our members as well. Now, to be frank, we also use Microsoft meetings as well. Reason being is that these are the two dominant products, I mean, which is commonly used in Singapore. Now, then you may ask me, Stephen, what happened to the consultancy work? Interesting. We have conversation with the customers, audio for a start, but it didn't really work that well. So we turned on a virtual platform like Zoom or Microsoft meetings in order to continue with the consultancy work that they have started doing. Some of this consultancy work are basically tapping onto government grants, and there's a deadline to meet. So we do all this using virtual platform, coaching session, mentoring session. We do something like what we are doing now over a platform like this, and whereby the scheduling of jobs, we basically will still have to do it on site, but again, as much as possible, a large part of the work is basically handled online now. Okay, now, okay, we also did a survey, okay, together with the Association of the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, and also together with Microsoft survey on the SME digital transformation in the year 2020. What we found out is a lot of the time projects fail or digital transformation fail, failing which the data analytics is not possible. It is only for 56% that talks about high cost, the lack of the digital skill workforce, and again, and so on. If you look at it, and not having the right partner, those are very crucial. Okay. Today, I think the high cost basically is not the main reason. And in fact, if we start to talk to small and medium enterprises, everybody knows that they have to do transformation. I think it's quite pervasive in Singapore. But then the question is that why is it that still management feels that they will fail? It's because I think they did not identify the right technology partner, and for that matter, having their staff to be skilled digitally. So we embarked on a project last year to basically train as many employees as possible through the employers in terms of digital skill. Now, I just want to share with you, this is basically from Delaware report that how to move towards a data-driven company, and it doesn't happen overnight. But that has to do with the culture and the 6 principles. Okay, so don't run before you can walk. So please do it in bite size. So also avoid spaghetti, choose rivalry. Basically, it means is that don't get yourself entangled. Okay, with too many projects. Make it simple, and then and bite size. I think that's important. Now, this one without fail. Point number 3. Design, test, optimize, and report. Often not, companies tend to bypass a lot. They never do a good design stage. They never test it and optimize, and they get it implemented. It becomes a mess out of the whole thing. The 4th point basically is that a fool without a tool, with a tool, is still a fool. Mainly is that please do train up your people. You need to upskill that. So I think that is important. In Singapore, we are fortunate. We have the government to support in terms of a lot of training in the form of training grants. But again, today, a lot of this information is readily available on the web. There are free webinar, and you do a Google search, you can basically get lots of information. My suggestion is that this self-learning, it is an important thing. This lifelong learning, it is a lifelong learning thing. So where it's not possible to attend a course, I do understand that certain country, proximity and availability of a training provider is not there. Basically, as long as you get onto the internet, you can get lots of information. And please do share and work with your team. And I think the constant sharing sessions and working with the team and getting into the culture of learning and teaching each other, I think goes a long, long way. Now, always remember your data. You have to look into the details of it. In fact, somebody was telling me for data literacy, please do listen and talk to your data. When I was first presented with this one, listen and talk to the data. It seems to be that data is alive and it's like a human talking to you. So this is things that you probably have to discover it yourself, and the data does tells you a certain story. Now, yes, never sit on it because time flies, and you never know that a year will pass very quickly. Okay, if you look at COVID-19, the pandemic is almost coming to 2 years for some of us, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. It gets into various forms and so on, and we will have to really live with it, and we need to build ourselves resilience at the same time, together with living with COVID-19. I think that's important. If you ask me, we are into the COVID-19 era, and this era is going to be a 3 to 5 years period, at least 3 years. The average should be about 5 years. Okay, don't ask me how I get this prediction, but if you look at the trend, it will tell you that you will easily need at least 3 years, and probably an average period will be 4 to 5 years for it to be completely out of our care. Okay, but again, learn how to live with it. I think that's important. Now, lastly, I think if you need to contact me, my information is here, my email, and I think for some of you, if you do LinkedIn, you can get my LinkedIn information as well. And again, what's more important is that if you want to know more of the experience that we have gone through, how we work with the technology partner, how do we basically garner our staff together and my associates, because we do have a lot of associate partners. They are the trainers, they are the consultants that we work very closely with to address all my employer needs out there, and we basically operate it as a service provider. Okay, even though we are not solely profits in the year 2020, we still make a little bit of profits that we can share with the staff. And in the year 2021, yes, it's going to be a very challenging year, but I think we can still share a little bit of profits that or surpluses with the staff as well. So I think I would like to stop here and basically get into the Q&A session.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much. Very practical, down to earth, walk the walk, talk the talk, what it is all about. I love it. Fantastic presentation. Thank you. And thank you for staying up till midnight and now past midnight, obviously, to present to us. Thank you so much. Very, very well done. So we have a few questions. I'll start with a question. How is the pandemic affecting the way your organization operates in terms of still a good level of customer experience in place?
Okay, Jim, let me just share that. To be frank, when the pandemic hits us, we were shocked. We were shocked. The honest answer, we were shocked. We were stunned for a while, okay? And we were wondering the first thing, how do I continue to serve my members? Okay, we didn't even talk about the customer experience. We will say, how do we continue to do what we used to do, where we run briefings in big gatherings, okay, in hotels and so on. So we try to look at Zoom. Yes, we discovered Zoom, and I tell you, when we first do the first webinar, I got more than half of my employers not knowing how to use Zoom. Okay, yeah. Okay, and they all get into technical problems. So we come up with a technical hotline to help them get into it. Yeah. What is the problem? How can I help you? I mean, those empathy statements that Jason just mentioned earlier on. My goodness, half of the community in the corporate world do not know what is Zoom. And the better still part of it is that some of the customers' security system just don't allow them to get onto the internet. So everybody is struggling with it and so on. Yes, we figure out, we come up with guidelines, we teach people how to do it. And Jim, can you imagine? I'm trying to run a webinar, a big one that talks about 1,000. We have to do half an hour registration, and actually the registration is not registration, it's troubleshooting, okay, sessions. So yeah, we open up many sessions. In fact, we activate the whole thing. Call this line. We work with the technology people to do auto hunting, and we practically get through that motion of troubleshooting, teaching people on the spot. Okay, even though we have given out the guidelines, because later stage after one seminar, you try to put all the learnings together and get it to the customers. Some read it, yes, they're successful, but nevertheless, I think that's important, is that we manage over time, about 2 weeks, to get everybody accustomed to it and learn how to do it. And the best part of it, they fall in love with it. And I think today, all of us are falling in love with a platform like that. I can never imagine talking to all of you in US in the morning, and I'm also in the morning, but midnight morning, you know. Okay, you guys are about noon, correct? You guys are noon, correct? Is it? And we can talk so freely, no longer bounded by borders. It's borderless, and we can make more friends here, and we share, and I think that's what the world needs to have. We need to have more friends. We need to share more so that all of us learn together. Hopefully, also to get into prosperity and decent living for majority of us. Okay, the business people, we talk about prosperity. Okay, Jim?
Okay, all right. So I have another question from our audience here from Florida. I'm going to try to paraphrase this because it's a little bit political, but I don't want it to be political. But in the US, you know, the way that we've done our lockdown is much different than in Singapore. In Singapore, I think it's much stricter as far as moving around and meeting in groups and masks and so forth. But it does relate to unemployment, right? This lockdown and the linkage between unemployment, the training that you provide, the support that you provide. How did you guys find a balance between unemployment, which is in the US linked to mortality rates? The more unemployed you have, the greater your mortality rate is. And with the lockdown causing unemployment, has Singapore proactively addressed anything in this area? And that was the question, I believe.
Okay, Jim, I think you're basically asking the Singapore government to answer a question with regards to this. Okay, now, let me just share a little bit how we work closely from the employer representation with the government, the Singapore government, and even the biggest employee union, which is the National Trade Union Congress in Singapore, which we call the Singapore Tripartism in short. Now, I truly agree that the pandemic has caused a lot of unemployment, businesses wind down, and so on. We are not spared. The only good thing about it is Singapore, unlike US, you guys are big continent with a large population, and from one end to another end, you're talking about traveling within a few hours on the plane. Now, we are small, okay, but again, we have limited resources. The first thing that we do when the pandemic hits us, we look at protecting lives. I think that's the first thing we look at, the lives, and then we talk about livelihood. I think this thing, I'll remember it for life, lives and livelihood. Okay, first and foremost, we need to make sure that people are safe. People are safe to work. Right? I think this is an important thing. And we have to ensure that our healthcare system can basically address it. So I think we made all the necessary move, and we have no choice in April last year that we need to have a lockdown to slow down the infection rate. Now, what happened during this period? In fact, in February last year, the government had decided to actually do 6 budgets within a year, 6 budgets within a year, where it employs different aspects of it. But the one and only budget that really hits the heart of it is called unemployment. It is basically to offer internships, okay, at 80% funded by the government, capped at $3,000 Sing dollars, and the employer just pay 20%. So what happened is that for those companies who are still growing in need of manpower, they will take the interns from the unemployed group, whereby they will be housed in under them for a year through an internship, or we call it attachment, where one will have a job. One will have a job. The individual will get a salary of 3,000. 80% funded by the government, 20% paid by the employer. So which means that if you work out a $3,000 salary, the employer just has to pay 600. Okay, and that
Is
is
that per month? 3,000 a
so
month?
this is internship for a year. For a year, yes, a month 3,000 over 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay, that is to help to tie over to reduce the rate of people without a job, and that will cause a social unrest. So we actually offered almost about 120,000 jobs out there, and seriously, the number is big. In Singapore context, 120 people, 1,000 without a job or transit because of COVID-19 or pandemic is a serious matter. Okay, so we work on that. Then Jim, you may ask me, what about those that just finished their education, meaning whether it's a diploma holders or be it a university graduate? We have what we call a traineeship for graduates. That also goes on the same model. We call it the SG United traineeship, and we have the mid-career. Mid-career are people who are affected by the pandemic and they are probably working for somebody. All of a sudden this company really cannot operate any further. Obviously we do things like shorter work week, compressed work week, things like garden leave and so on, which I think many countries will do, but they will reach a stage whereby the employer cannot further continue. Then we will redeploy this group of people into a mid-career internship and getting more those employers that are still hiring to do it, because over that period there are businesses out there who are flourishing and they need the manpower to do work. Okay, so especially the essential services, we basically did a very tight measure on going from places to places. So we need a lot of temperature takers. We need a lot of people who are trained to be able to do testing, the shops and all that. So that's where we created those shops for a year, and that is also to not only create the job, but it also helps to ensure that we continue to do testing, tracing, and obviously now we're talking about a very good vaccination group. Just imagine, Jim, a vaccination center, you need the customer service people other than the nurses and the doctor. So we create jobs in that area as well. So yes, I think it may be temporarily for a year or so, but I think it is to get the community participate in it at the same time. They probably earns a living as a temporary job, is it? So that's how we create jobs over time, and we also created a lot of what we call quarantine order. We basically buy rooms from the hotels for those that need to be on quarantine order. You know, we have visitors coming back, we have residents coming back. They need to be quarantined for 14 days or 31 days, depending on which country at that point in time. Yeah, all this needs more manpower. So we basically redeploy, but behind it is basically the government subsidizing the salary. So that's how we manage to keep our unemployment rate down with that measures that put in place. A lot of these are basically reserves that we need to draw on. But again, I got to thank the government and the employers all coming in to basically create temporary jobs to overcome this situation. Jim? Yeah, that's my short answer.
Yeah, well, thanks for your thoughtful perspective. I think every country has different challenges. It's hard to translate the challenges from one state in the US to another, let alone a country to country on the other side of the world. But it's very interesting to hear what you've done in Singapore, your government has done, and how you've managed this. It's tough for everyone, but I think, getting back to our topic here of, building this data literacy amongst the workforce, this is taking advantage of this time to increase that data literacy for the workforce is very a unique opportunity to create new jobs that are very high-paying jobs for the changing workforce. So there's quite a bit of opportunity globally where there wasn't before. And there's training programs like you mentioned. And like you mentioned earlier, there are training programs that are free that you can get up to speed that are not costly to create your new skills. So this is truly more of a global opportunity workforce than we've ever had before. So do you have any closing comments, Stephen?
Yeah, I think I just want to put it simply. I think every country faces the same problem of this pandemic. The treatment will be very different in different countries for the very fact that uh, uh, the legislation, the reserve that one has in each of the country, and so on. But I think beneath it, what is very interesting is that as all this technology comes in, we realize that we are collecting a lot of this data. In Singapore, we basically rely on a lot of this data to do tracing, to detect where the clusters are, and there's a big team at the back looking at the segregating the data, cleaning it, and analyzing it so that we get the updated information. We can go to the right source to basically do another round of what we call testing to make sure that we contain the infections. That is a very interesting thing when you're talking about data, analyzing it visually, that and making use of all the tools out there to basically do it. So I think moving forward, the world will become a data-driven one. It is a matter of how we do it, and please do use it for the right purpose and not for something that's evil. So I just want to part off with that statement.
Yeah,
And
that's a great
again,
way
I think it is going to be hopeful. Just a matter that we all have to go through this difficult period. I do understand that there are people who are badly affected by it. For those who are still okay, probably help to lend a helping hand. And I think together we should be able to emerge stronger. I think that's important. Okay, that's all I want to share with the audience. Though I think some of the things are not very related, but sometimes it's good to just share that so that it helps to visualize the whole purpose of why we are doing data analytics.
That's
here.
right. Put some practicality to everything, I think. So thank you so much, Stephen. As Stephen turns off his video, we'll wrap up today. Thank you, Stephen. Again, fantastic dialogue and discussion. We are closing out today. We want to thank Abby and Floresk and Tandem Health, and of course, Stephen here and SNEF for their fantastic, insightful presentations. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Signavio, Abby, and UiPath. Tomorrow's lineup will kick off with NCC Group with Tarek, and his title was Implementing Customer-Centric Culture and Employee Engagement to Achieve Excellent Customer Advocacy in the Remote World. And then next, I will be speaking on discovering growth through your customer needs and priorities. And then we'll close out tomorrow with the third presentation of the day. There will only be three, with UiPath and Element Blue and Rogers Communications. And they will be discussing improving the customer experience with automation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you found this beneficial. All the, as we sent out in the links in the chat, all the presentations are available on BTOES website. So please, we welcome you to look at those at any time and provide feedback to the presenters. They all left their contact information at the end. So please do reach out to them. And if you need anything from me, You know where to find me. I'll be here tomorrow morning. Thank you so much and have a great evening.